and welcome to my channel, and I am Stephanie, and this is the September week 3 weekly wrap-up. Y'all getting me real raw today because I really worked hard to get these books finished so I could put this up for you guys. Stayed in bed, and yeah. As I said, super busy all week long, and then this weekend was absolutely crazy. As you can see, if you've been watching my Contemporaryathon vlog videos, I'm actually out of my sling today, but that is because I pretty much stayed in bed all day today to finish reading the books that I needed to read. I didn't get to all of them that I was hoping to, but I did get to quite a few of them. And this week has been super busy because it's the end of the fiscal year. If you're familiar with the federal government, fiscal year runs from the beginning of October until September 30th, or 30th of each year. And that's when our budget comes out, and Congress, and all sorts of things here in America, if you're watching somewhere else that's not in America. So yeah, we had to close out books and things like that for our budgets, and it's just hectic. It's my very first year in this position that I have now that I'm doing this, so I have a learning curve going on and everything. So yeah, but I did manage to get to 7 books, and not all of them qualified for Contemporaryathon, which I'm super excited about. Most of them did, but not all of them. So let's just get to books that I did read for this week. The first one I read was Mated to the Warriors, which is book number 2 in the Interstellar Bride series by Goodwin. And this is a sci-fi erotica. I'm placing it as a sci-fi erotica. I give it 3.5 stars. I listened to it on audiobook, and the reason I gave it 3.5 stars is because this one, you really kind of rehash what you already knew if you had read the first book. And granted, you don't have to read the first book to read this book. I just felt it was a little bit of a rehash that didn't need to happen. You could have just jumped in. It could have just jumped into the story. So this story follows Hannah, who is in debt because she's trying to take care of her family. So the bride system that we now have in the world is intergalactic and interstellar and things like that. So you either have to be a criminal, a female criminal, or you can volunteer for this service if you just need to get out of the out of the world, out of Earth, off of Earth, and you want to go away. Yeah. So you get matched sexually to a partner for the other galaxies, and in this story in particular, she gets matched to 2 warriors, and she has a primary and she has a secondary, because on this planet they rule in pairs, or they have a second, so that no one's bride ever goes uncared for. Yeah. So I had just wished that there was more drama to it, because by the time the drama did come up, it was like the story was over. So that just kind of put me off. I am going to read the next book in the series because it's also offered on Audible romance package, so I'm excited to do that. The next book I read was Autoboyography by Christina, and I read this for Contemporaryathon. It is a YA. I give it 5 stars, and I listened to it on audiobook. I was super surprised by this story. I initially didn't think that I was going to like this story, but then I let it overwhelm me and, just rush over me, and I really listened to it. It is about love, it's about family, it's about faith. And so your main character is Tanner, who is a senior in high school, and his friend convinces him that he needs to take this writing salon with her. And by the end of the salon, or by the end of the semester, they have to have written a book, or have the startings or makings of a book. Ooh, yeah. So Tanner is an openly gay male that has moved, his family moved to Provo, I think, Utah. And that is a very big Latter-day Saints sort of community. And you have your people that are outside of the faith and you have your people that are inside the faith, and I think it was just a very good representation of the community, of the situation that they were going through. And Tanner really does sort of find himself. He wasn't really lost, or he didn't need to find himself, but the journey that he ends up taking is so amazing, and it's just beautiful. And then it really came home when I listened to Christina Lauren do an interview with the audiobook narrator that read for this book, and some of the questions he asked them and some of the questions they asked him were amazing and really gave a lot of insight into the story. The next book I read was He Will Be My Ruin by K.A. Tucker, and I placed this one in mystery thriller. I read it for Contemporaryathon, and I give it 4 stars. I listened to it as an audiobook, and this story follows Maggie and Celine, and Maggie is Celine's friend. Celine ends up committing suicide. Maggie doesn't believe that she committed suicide. It turns into this huge thing. I only gave it 4 stars because I did not like the pairings that they tried to do in the book. I felt it was unnecessary. I found some of the other characters, a lot of the characters, to be really, really creepy and just weird. And that's why I placed it in mystery thriller instead of romantic suspense as well, because I went into it thinking it was a romantic suspense based on this cover, and that's not what it was. At least not for me. I wasn't feeling it as a romance at all. I felt it as a mystery thriller, and it was, thumbs up for that. But it really, really wowed me had those romantic connections been fleshed out a little bit better. The next book I read was The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang, and I placed this in a YA borderline middle grade. It is a graphic novel. I read it for Contemporaryathon. I give it 4 stars. It was really cute. It was really sweet, and it was a really beautifully illustrated book. And I also read this for my own goal of read more physical books, because I got it from my library, and this was one of the books that was on that category. So the prince has a little bit of a secret, and he brings in a dressmaker, and she sort of shows him that acceptance is the way, as well as helping his family and the community to say acceptance is the way. The next book I read was The Controversial Princess. This is Smoke and Mirrors #1 of the duet, and this is by Jodi Ellen Malpas. I read this for Contemporaryathon. I give this book 5 humongous, amazing stars. I listened to it on audiobook, and I had actually wore out my arm, so this week I had to start wearing my sling again, and because my arm was just way overworked, and I was feeling pain. So when it came time for me to do this review or type up this review, my arm was just way too tired. So typing with one hand is just a pain in the butt. So I said, hey, go and check out my Contemporaryathon vlog. I believe it was day 3 and 4 that I gave a review of this, but I'll give you a quick one right now as well. So this story follows Princess Adelaide and Josh, who is an American actor. It is set in Europe, in England, and she is the princess, like 3rd in line to have the throne and things like that. So she really is feeling like, oh, I don't have anything, to lose. The country loves me, but I'll never really actually be queen. And so this is her story of not really wanting to fit into the mold they want her to fit into. Her father, the king, is trying to marry her off to a man that she doesn't love. And Josh is, as I said, an American actor who is really big, and his father knows the king. So for her birthday, he comes over and they're invited to her garden party where they meet. This does have BDSM themes in it, and I'm sure that it would be controversial to anyone that doesn't like the whole alpha male sort of persona that Jodi Ellen Malpas loves to write. Man, she writes a good a good alpha male, and Josh is amazing. Amazing, so good. Now, this audiobook only has one narrator, but I loved this narrator's voice. She did a really good British accent. She also did a very convincing American accent, and some of the staff and some of the other characters that were in this book that had speaking parts, she did a very good tone where you could determine, or you could hear that it was another character speaking and it wasn't our main characters. The next book I read was Want Me Cowboy by Maisey Yates. I talked all week long about this book in my Contemporaryathon vlogs. I read it for Contemporaryathon. I also read it for Harlequin. And I give this book 4 to 4.5 stars. I read it as an arc, and this book releases October the 1st. So this book follows Poppy, who is the assistant to Isaiah. And Isaiah and Poppy have had a history for 10 years. She has been in love with him, and he just didn't know it, didn't have the fortitude and understanding to really grasp what he had right in front of him. They have history, and he enlists her to find him a wife because his family, his 2 brothers and his sister, no, I don't think his sister has found a husband yet, but his 2 brothers have recently gotten married and started having kids and started having family and stuff like that. Well, he didn't want to necessarily be left out, but those are things that he wanted as well. So he was like, hey, Poppy, go put an ad in the paper and find me a wife. I want you to interview them and everything. So there were some moments there that I felt a little disconnected with the story. I didn't like that there was this miscommunication between the 2 of them and how they sort of kept close-lipped on how they were feeling. But overall, I did enjoy the story by the end, and I definitely would recommend it. Then the final book that I read for this week was In Tune by JN Welsh, and I placed this in Contemporary, and I read it for Contemporaryathon. I also read it for Harlequin, and I give it 4 stars. This was an arc, and I believe this one releases either October 1st as well, or just a little bit later. Maybe a smidgen later. But this book follows Lenore. She is a music producer slash manager slash tour yeah. She like runs some shit when it comes to the music business. Luke is this up-and-coming DJ who wants to hit it big, but he has some reservations about Leo, who, by the way, is Lenore's nickname, about Leo because of some rumors, and Leo has just taken a year off because of the bad publicity she received after breaking up with a past relationship who ended up bad-mouthing her. Now, I did feel some disconnection throughout this book. There was a huge formatting issue. Now, I didn't subtract any stars because of the formatting issues, but it did go all the way through the entire book, which made it super hard for me to read because it would have like 1-word lines, and the lines of this, it was just really jumbled. I really hope that they fix this formatting issue before they decide to publish this book, because I think it could be really good, but it just took me a long time to get into it because I was like, yeah. Then on top of that, Leo and Luke's sort of parts weren't necessarily marked off as well, so you would be reading and then all of a sudden it would be Leo talking, but then the next thing you know you're in Luke's head. So it was just kind of really strange. I hope that they really clean up that formatting issue. And yeah, the story overall was a good story. I enjoyed it. You saw their dynamic, you get to see their journey through making sense of the drama that it was. I do wish that they had hit on the topics that Luke was going through. Some of the things, revelations that he had, they didn't really cover it. She didn't cover it. And I was like, wait, that doesn't, we just kind of skimmed over that. I mean, you knew there was an issue, but you didn't really get resolution for Luke's issues all that much. But yeah. So those are the books that I read over the week of September the 16th through the 22nd. Have you read any of those books? Let me know down in the comments what you thought about them if you did. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, there is a feedback form down in the description box so you guys can help me improve my channel. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.